Oh, sorry. OK， 大家晚上好欢迎今天来到我们其实就是不是一个正式的，我们就是大家一起来聊一聊天关于优和就是整个家庭的成长怎样帮助我们的孩子成为许玛塔吉优秀的孩子在他的成长过程当中。那我们今天请来了 Niranjana 她是 Grego Uncle 的大叔的女儿
葛雷瓜大叔
中文是叫葛雷瓜葛雷瓜大叔的女儿。然后那么今天我们采访她的呢是Sahaja是来自美国现在是在亚特兰大，和我是在一个集体那她出生在印度，是成长在撒哈加瑜伽的家庭当中。
他也出生在印度啊，觉得好有缘分呀。
是啊，他是出生在印度的。然后我们是不是就开始了，小青？
可以。
OK，
今天呢，补充一点，其实这个话题也是围绕着亲子关系，对吧？就这个女孩子，她是在冥想瑜伽的环境里面成长。在这个成长的过程中呢，她父母也会用一些冥想瑜伽的方法去帮助她。然后呢，我们另外一位朋友呢，她是一位妈妈，她有2个女儿，大女儿13岁，还有小女儿11岁。她是以妈妈的角色来怎么用冥想瑜伽的方法来帮助她去面对帮助她的孩子的。好的。
So let's get it started. Sahaja, go ahead.
Okay. Jai Shri Mataji. It's so nice to be here and to talk to you all. So I had a few questions for Niranjana. Hey Niranjana, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. And you?
Okay, so I guess we could start with, how long you've been in Sahaj for, what are some of your maybe key experiences, and then why are you in Sahaj? Like what made you realize that this is the truth? What keeps you going?
Let me translate for Sahaja. So Sahaja 是在问Niranjana 就是你是什么时候开始撒哈加瑜伽？Sorry, Sahaja, I think I wasn't paying attention. Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just asking, how long she's been in Sahaj for, and what made her realize that this is the truth, or why she keeps going in Sahaj.
Okay. 你是在什么时候开始撒哈加瑜伽的？就是多长时间了？那从什么时候是什么样的情况下意识到这是你想要走的路？ Go ahead, Niranjana.
So I've been in Sahaj Yoga my whole life. I've been practicing Sahaj Yoga my whole life. I grew up in it. But as everybody has to choose their own path in life, I did too. So I also came to a point where I needed to decide for myself, is this something I want to continue? It was something that, my parents practiced when I was young. And I, as I said, grew up, as with Sahaja Yoga as if it was a normal part of my life. But eventually everybody has to make that decision for themselves. And I think we can speak about experiences, but the bottom line is that unlike most movements which are so-called for spirituality or spirituality based, or any movements which claim to be for self-growth or self-improvement, Sahaja Yoga is really the only one which is based on practice. That all the theory exists. We can talk about the theory as much as we want. We can talk about the benefits of Sahaja Yoga, or the benefits for Mr. X, Mrs. Y, whatever. But essentially, it's a very personal thing. You have to experience it for yourself, and it's only based on your own personal experiences. that you can understand what Sahaja Yoga is, how it impacts you, and grow further in it. Shrimati, from the very beginning, when she conducts the first experience of
Sorry,
self-realization.
Niranjana. Let me translate before I lose the thoughts.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I just try to see. So Niranjana 她说呢，就是她是就是出生在撒哈加瑜伽的家庭大家都知道这一点所以她是从小就开始练习撒哈加瑜伽但是每个人都要选择自己的路所以说她也是一样的，就是出生在撒哈加瑜伽的家庭，但是最终是自己的选择走上了撒哈加瑜伽的道路但是撒哈加瑜伽作为灵性深进或者是我们灵性方面的一个练习，那么它是通过你的实践，你的练习，就是一切都是可以验证的我就大概的翻译一下，因为他讲的有点多，之前就是不能一句一句的翻。Okay, go ahead, Niranjana. I will try to give me a break, so I can just.
I'll keep it in mind.
Thank
yes.
you.
I was just going to add that in the first experience of self-realization, where people get introduced to Sahaja Yoga for the first time and feel the awakening of this energy within us, that in Sanskrit is known as the Kundalini. During that experience, Shrimati tells everybody that, we have to be our own masters. We are our own masters. And would you like to translate till then?
Yes. 当我们开始有了自觉的体验，那么徐玛太吉告诉我们，我们要成为自己的导师。
So there's no, it's not an organized movement. There's nobody keeping track who are the members, who are non-members. There's no obligation. There's no subscription or payment in Sahaja Yoga. It's entirely left to the liberty, entirely to the freedom of the person who wishes to practice yoga.
所以没有sorry before I forget 没有人监视你，没有证书发给你说你是这个成员还是你不是这个成员这一切都是取决于在你完全自由的情况下你自己去做出的一个选择。Go ahead.
So nobody is going to pressure and keep asking, do you want to, are you doing? And the motivation to continue comes essentially from our experiences. And when we talk about experiences, what we mean are the feelings or the learnings we get through the meditation. So it is a meditation-based movement, and it's a very personal thing that we do for our own self-knowledge, self-awareness, and self-improvement. But it's also a community movement because many people practice Sahaja Yoga all around the world. And we all support each other, help each other, guide each other, and learn from each other.
它是一个完全个人的行为，就是没有人去给你压力，都是你自己的选择。那同时它也是一个集体的行为，因为我们大家一起去练习撒哈加瑜伽，相互学习。Go ahead.
Thank you. So like you said, right, during the Kundalini awakening, you actually feel that change, right? But you were also born in Sahaj. So a lot of you of us who are born in Sahaj say that because they don't have a previous life to compare the change with, they often don't realize what they're born with, right? And that's one of the main reasons they stray away from Sahaj, is because they don't know the value of what they have. So was there any key moment in your life that made you realize that, oh, this is it for me, or anything that was like a oh moment or a series of moments?
Yes, for me, it's not.
Sorry, Niranjana, let me. Sorry, I know it's happens like that because you just totally get into the mood.
Yes.
Sorry, have to break you. So 追加的问题是就是我们大家不同的，就是Niranjana也好，还是追加也好，他们都是在 撒哈加瑜伽的家庭里面长大，就是从小就接触撒哈加，他们没有一个比较，就是在进入撒哈加之前和进入撒哈加之后的比较。那么这也是许多就是出生在撒哈加瑜伽家庭的孩子最终选择走出撒哈加瑜伽，因为他内心没有一个比较。那是他问尼兰加呢，是有没有那么一个时刻，就是自己说就是哇，我要就是继续撒哈加瑜伽，就是撒哈加瑜伽是我要选择的这条路。Okay, go ahead, 尼兰加呢？
So for me, it wasn't a one moment. It was a series of experiences, an awareness and a realization based on my life and my experiences. It was very clear to me, especially when I was in a Sahaj setting, how I felt in that environment. And I could feel the difference in myself when I would have good meditations and when I had, a period of time when my meditations were not so good. So it's simply a question of being honest with oneself. I don't want to comment on, there are multiple reasons why people join Sahaja Yoga and then also stop practicing.
Let me break here because before I forget. So, 尼安珍娜说呢，就是我没有，他说他没有说有一个某个时刻他做出了这个决定，它是一个一系列的就是过程，就是一系列的发生的事件就是给他这样的一个体验然后他感觉到，当他有一个很好的一个冥想的时候，他所处的那种状态，和当他有那么一阵子冥想状态不太好的时候那么他所在的那种状态，所以他就是让他自己就是感觉到撒哈加瑜伽给他带来的这样的一个好处还有一个重要的一点是，我们要诚实的对待自己，就是我们要诚实的忠实于自己的感觉，就是你必须是诚实的。Okay, go ahead.
What I was going to say is that it can be very difficult to come to terms with the enormity of what Sahaja Yoga is. Because when we start feeling and perceiving what we call the vibrations, or in Sanskrit, the Param Chaitanya in our hands, and that is just one of the small sort of signs that something is actually happening, that this energy actually exists. Later on, we see innumerable other signs as well. But it can be difficult at times to accept what we're feeling or what we're experiencing. And it can intimidate you also, that is this actually real? Is this actually what it is? Or what, sure, I feel the vibrations in my hands, but is it true that this is actually the all-pervading power which permeates this entire creation, which has supported life and the evolution from the beginning to now? Just understanding this can be mind blown. And I feel that it's really a question of just being honest with yourself and take one step at a time. Try not to get lost in all these big concepts. Just try to understand, how am I feeling? What am I feeling? Am I actually perceiving this difference? Am I seeing this difference in myself? Am I being honest with myself? And if the enormity of it all leads you to sort of deny what you're feeling, or leads you to deny the experiences you've had, then, you can't help yourself. If you are not honest with yourself, nobody else can be honest with you or help you. We have to start by being honest with ourselves and just take it one step at a time, see what you're feeling, how it's doing for you, and carry on with that.
那尼兰珍娜说呢，就是我们感觉到，就是我们获得了自觉，就是我们在手上感觉到这个能量。那有时候我们也会产生这样的疑问，就是一段时间之后，那么我手上感觉到这个能量是不是创造这个世界的这个能量？ 是不是就是无所不在的这个无所不能的能量那最重要的就是我们要对自己诚实，我们的感觉如果说你不要就是不要就是迷失在所有的这些概念当中，就是去跟随你自己的感觉，你感觉到的是什么你要诚实的去面对。如果说你要去否定它那也是没有办法的。就是如果说你对自己你不去诚实的面对自己，那别人也是没有办法去帮到你的。所以说最重要的是要诚实的面对自己和自己的感觉。Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it, I guess, because it's your personal journey. You're the only one that can help yourself and Sahaj. That's very true. And speaking of individual journeys, we all know about this, Yogi. We've all heard of him, his great journey in Sahaj, your dad, Uncle Gregor. And Shumataji has talked about him in many lectures. I was just wondering, as his daughter, have you heard of any personal stories from him that you could share, of course? Any personal moments with Shumataji, anything such as that you know of that we could all enjoy and listen to?
就是我们知道你是葛雷瓜大叔的女儿，然后那么她就是在撒哈加瑜伽内也是就是我们大家都知道的一个人物。你有没有就是他告诉你的一些故事可以跟大家一起分享的 ？Go ahead.
So, of course, there were many occasions that my father was with Shumataji directly. In fact, he was one of the first yogis when Sahaja Yoga was just starting, especially in the West. And he writes about his journey and discovery of Sahaja Yoga in his book, The Advent. And he also describes in that book some of his personal experiences. What I can share, without getting into too much details at this point in time, is that for him, when he met Shumataji, there was no doubt that she was one of the most significant spiritual personalities to have ever walked this earth. She had about her the art of weaving into the deepest philosophical debates that had been discussed for millennia and explaining them in the most matter-of-fact and completely logical way. As if she was talking about a recipe for a dish. Because it was an innate knowledge. She was explaining the knowledge. She was bringing that knowledge to life. And not only bringing that knowledge to life, but enabling ordinary human beings around the world to experience that knowledge for themselves and discover it for themselves. And so whenever he would meet her and describe his meetings with her, he would carry some of that experience with him. And through his stories, we would feel like we had also just met her, or we had also just, felt we would feel her presence in his words and his stories. And it was the same whenever he would meet yogis all around the world. He would speak about Shumataji, speak about his learnings of Sahaja Yoga, his own experiences. And people appreciated him for that, because through those encounters, vibrations are living energy. And so Shumataji describes it like if you have one candle which is lit and you go to a candle which is not lit, the candle, one candle can light the next one. So it's not something that is exclusive for any one person. And Shumataji's personality was extremely magnetic. So during her lifetime, of course, everybody would just love to be in her physical presence. And wherever she would go, thousands of practicing Sahaj yogis would go to meet her and participate in her pujas. But when they would come back and meet other yogis, they would carry those vibrations with them. And so it would get spread around. And these vibrations, which are living energy, respond to our desire, respond to our seeking, respond to our seeking for the truth. And so these experiences can be shared and passed on. And that's what people would feel when they would hear the stories.
Hope I can remember all this.
Sorry.
No problem. It's okay. I will just give a brief explanation. 所以就是那么他有过就是格雷瓜大叔呢，他是就是在西方这边的瑜伽师，可能是就是可以算是第一个瑜伽师吧，或者是第一批瑜伽师中的其中的一个。那么他有很多的机会可以跟许玛塔吉在一起，那么他也有非常多的故事。那么每一次当他的父亲跟他说起这些故事的时候，那感觉就好像是就是许玛塔吉就在我们的面前一样那么当这些瑜伽师就是见过许玛塔吉这些瑜伽师，把这些故事叙述给其他的瑜伽师，或者是全球各地的各个地方的瑜伽师，那么这种能量也会带给其他的瑜伽师，就是许玛塔吉用他的这种方式，就是让大家感受到他的爱。OK， 就是一个大概的翻译啊。OK， go ahead.
Yes, that's very beautiful. And we just celebrated Shrimatiji's 100th birthday, and you just talked about, some of your dad's memorable feelings and experiences that he shared with Shrimatiji. What about you yourself? Have you had the chance, I'm assuming yes, to meet Shrimatiji, and what was your experience like in your words?
就是我们刚刚参加了许玛塔吉，就是刚刚结束了许玛塔吉100年的诞辰活动然后我们也知道，就是你的父亲有很多这样与许玛塔吉的经历和故事。那么你自己呢，有没有这样的故事可以跟我们分享一下 ？Go ahead.
So in the early days of Sahaja Yoga, there were fewer yogis than there are today. And so mother used to look into the challenges that those yogis were facing in their ascent more personally and more directly. So every time she traveled, the host country, meaning the country she would travel to, the yogis in that country would host Shrimataji in their homes, would prepare public programs where Shrimataji would attend and give self-realization to the seekers. And so, of course, when Shrimataji would travel in those days, she sometimes stayed at my parents' home, and that was the case in all the countries that she would travel. And she would stay with different yogis, and so Shrimataji did. We saw Shrimataji as babies, and then later on, Shrimataji opened a Sahaja Yoga school that we attended, and so Shrimataji took a very keen interest in how that was going, and she would meet regularly with the children attending those schools. And so on all those occasions, or every time that we would attend a puja, Shrimataji would call the children studying in those schools and speak to us, ask us how things were going, guide us also. She wanted us to grow into for lack of a better word, good human beings who had the proper values, the proper understanding of Sahaja Yoga, and who were able to then bring those values and live by those values in their day-to-day life in such a way that, we become examples of what Sahaja Yoga stands for. Shrimataji often used to say, if you want to see how real or unreal a guru is or a spiritual leader is. Look at how the followers are behaving. And so, you know, that is the reality of Sahaja Yoga, is that you take it for yourself, you integrate it, it becomes who you are, and you live by those values. It's not just a belief, it's an experience, as I said. And once it is an experience, then it's not something that you can switch on or off. It is either there or it's not there. And you have to decide, is it there for me or not? And accordingly live your life. And as a child, it was, or would you like to?
Yeah. OK 那么在早期的时候，没有多少撒哈加瑜伽士。那时候呢，许玛塔吉会就是关心每个人的个人的生活。那么他会去各个国家去到当地的瑜伽师的家里面，然后和当地瑜伽师一起去进行就是公开的活动。然后我们就是看到许玛塔吉就是在小婴儿的时候，后来呢许玛塔吉有了撒哈加瑜伽学校那我们也去了撒哈加瑜伽学校。那许玛塔吉会经常来撒哈加瑜伽学校看我们，会跟我们说话，问我们怎么样那许玛塔吉呢，就是希望我们成为有着撒哈加瑜伽精神，或者说有着这样的品质的人类。然后呢，当我们成长之后呢，带着这样的品质去生活。那这种品质不仅仅是一种头脑里面的认知，那它更是一种你自己的体验。当它成为你自己的体验的时候呢，那么这就是你自己的选择，你要选择继续撒哈加瑜伽这条路，还是暂时的离开，这都是你完全是你自己的选择。Okay, go ahead.
So as a child, you always see children, especially when children are very young, they feel it's easier to acknowledge your own feelings because the mind gets less into the way. As we grow older, then the mind also interferes. So as a small child, I remember that every time we were in mother's presence, you know, there's such a magnetism around Shrimataji, and so much love she would share, that feeling just overwhelmed you. And it was just really like that motherly love that just filled the heart and nourished. And so when you grow up as an adult, then you understand also more the intricacies, also at an intellectual level, of what Sahaja Yoga means and of what this experience can do and what it represents. So it was interesting growing in that way and understanding it. I have the memory of, you know, how I used to see Shrimataji as a small child, and how I then also understood, or I mean, understood is perhaps not the right word, but learned a little bit more as I grew up into an adult, you know, about who she is, what she's brought on this earth, and what this experience represents for mankind.
所以就是对他来讲呢，就是他的经验是这样，就是当我们是孩子的时候，那我们的脑袋呢是不会过于的参与进来的，就是小孩子他是非常单纯的，所以他只是感受到当母亲跟他们在一起的时候呢，他感受到母亲有很强的磁场，就是那种爱的感觉就是完全的一种体验。那当稍稍大一点之后呢那么开始从头脑中理解撒哈加瑜伽，就是许玛塔吉是谁 然后萨哈加瑜伽是怎么一回事。所以他说这是一个非常有趣的体验，就是从刚刚开始孩子的时候，就是纯粹的一种或者是身体上的体验，到稍稍长大一点，然后从头脑中对萨哈加瑜伽的理解，这样的一个过程。OK。
That was amazing. Yes. Do you, aunties, do you have any questions to throw in? Meanwhile, else I can ask a question that I was meaning to ask, which, like, with respect to Sahaj, right? One of the most important aspects is, like you said, lighting other candles. And Shrimati has said, especially with the West, to go all out, try any innovations you have with respect to how you can bring people in. So in your journey in Sahaj, have you found any sort of, I'd say, innovations, for lack of a better word, or any small learnings that you've seen to be more effective in these programs?
So one thing is the experience of self-realization, and thousands of people get that experience all over the world. In some countries, it's more difficult. In other countries, it's easier. More people are interested in spirituality and in finding an inner peace. So more people are attracted to learning this. However, what I felt is the most effective, if you wish to call it that, in terms of somebody actually understanding what Sahaja Yoga is. And obviously the first step is their own experience, how they feel themselves. But then as Sahaja Yogis, we need to, as we do, you wanted to also speak about, parent and children relationship in Sahaja Yoga. So very much the same with parent and children relationship. When you have anything to teach somebody else, the best way of teaching is to lead by example. So if we ourselves live according to Shrimatiji's teachings, and people can see that it's not just talk, that we're actually walking the talk, that we're actually implementing in our lives the values that we're talking about, or the teachings that we're talking about, and that in our lives it impacts the way we react to situations, the way we cope with stress, the way we manage our interpersonal relationships within our families. When people see that, that's what gets them convinced that we are not only talking, we're actually living it. And so if you see, a lot of times, it is when people get to know us and see that we actually mean what we say and we live by what we say, that they become more convinced that we're not just talking through our hat.
Sorry, I dropped off the line, but actually I missed some part. Xiaoqing, would you like to translate? Because I'm on and off during the time. I only heard the last part.
Okay, yes, I can translate this part. 刚刚这位女安杰南姐妹讲到，就是我们在教导孩子的时候啊，其实更重要的就是说，不是我们教给他什么，而是我们怎么去做。其实这个跟我们中国文化中讲的言行合一，还有成语一下子有点忘记了，就是我们要以身作则。就是我们不仅是说用我们的语言去教育孩子，或者是说给我们的身边的人，给我们的社会树立一个什么样的榜样，更重要的就是我们所说的，也就是我们所做的，我们这个言行是合一的。我觉得这一点其实尤其是一些妈妈们很有共鸣。所以其实另外一个角度来讲，从孩子的一些行为也可以反映出我们平时我们是怎么去展现，在我们的一言一行中是怎么去展现我们自己的，就是给孩子真正的去树立榜样，从行为上对言传身教。谢谢言传身教，是的。OK。
So talking about parent-children relationships, which is again very important.
Yes.
in Sahaj, we really want our children. Okay, I don't have children, but in the future at some point, but we want our children to stay in Sahaj, to grow in Sahaj, and it's getting crazier by the day with all the media around, all the Maya, and the illusions keep stacking higher and higher every day. So of course, as parents, we can only try our best and surrender to mother and hope they figure it out for themselves. But what do you say would be the role of a parent other than leading by example? What can the parents do to really help their children understand the value of Sahaj or along those lines?
就是我们作为父母呢，是很希望我们的孩子可以在撒哈加瑜伽里面成长，长大以后也会继续他们的撒哈加瑜伽之路。那么就是除了作为父母以身作则以外，那么有没有其他的一些你想要分享？就是作为父母可以帮助孩子去继续他的撒哈加瑜伽之路。
So fundamentally, of course, Sahaj Yoga is a discovery of ourselves and an evolution within ourselves. And so none of us are perfect. We all have, qualities. We all have weaknesses, shortcomings. And when we become parents, we try to protect our children from this world. We try to protect their innocence and their beauty in their childhood. And all parents look out for their children in that way, or all parents who love their children look out for them in that way. And I think that fundamentally to really, so as parents, of course, we love our children, we look after our children, but we also guide our children. So there's also the aspect of the, being a teacher in their lives. And as you said, number one is leading by example. But number two is also being able to have a communication, an honest communication with the children. Children, one thing that children do not tolerate in any way is hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. And so if we preach one thing, do something else, or if we hold them to certain standards without understanding, the situation properly, and we're hypocritical in how we behave or how we speak to them, then it pushes them away.
Before you think more, let me translate.
Yeah.
就是那么就是显然呢，就是基本上来讲，我们就是想要去保护我们的孩子我们每个人都有自己的缺陷。那么撒哈加瑜伽是一个内在的，就是自我的成长，自己的一个成长。那我们想要保护我们的孩子，想让他们继续在撒哈加瑜伽这条路上，那第一重要的是我们要以身作则。那第二重要的是我们要跟他们就是交流诚实的交流那么不能够说我们说一套做一套，那孩子是不会接受这些的。Go ahead.
No, so having an open communication with the children is primordial. Being able to speak with them, but not only for us to share what we want, but also to hear from them, because they are living in a completely different world to the one we lived in. And so to hear from the children, understand their world through their eyes, understand what they are going through. Only when we can both be on the same page can the communication be effective. So if we want to teach anything to our children, we have to first be able to connect to them and have that connection with them. So to have that connection, of course, we all say we love our children love us. And that's a very strong basis to start on. But saying we love is not enough. We have to express that love through our ability to hear them, to understand them, and to then guide them properly.
所以我们说我们要跟我们的孩子有交流，这个交流不仅仅是我们告诉我们的孩子你要怎么做，同时我们也要就是听到他们说他们想要什么，就是理解他们眼中的世界所以就是这样呢有一个很好的交流。Let me think， 想想还有什么？Okay, that's all I can think of.
Okay, one point I just add， 就是在跟孩子交流之前，还有一个很重要的一点，就是要先跟孩子建立连接。
Yes.
就是在这个连接的基础上，我们再去跟孩子交流，再去给他适当的引导。
对，我想起这一点了，就经常的突然就忘记说话。对，就是我们要跟不是说我们说我们爱孩子孩子也爱我们，就是这个爱呢，不仅仅是你就是这样说出来而已，就是你要去切切实实的去做，就是你要跟这个孩子之间有这样的一个联系。那这个联系的基础呢，是从我爱我的孩子，孩子也爱我开始的。那从这一点出发，我们要去跟他们有很好的交流。OK，
对，这个连接也可以理解成就是我们要先去感受孩子，这个孩子当下他是什么的一个情绪状态，他在想什么，他的想法是什么。当我们有了这些信息以后，再去跟孩子交流会更好。
好的，小庆你就帮我一起翻译吧，因为我经常容易忘记点，我们俩就相互补充一下。
你翻译，对，你翻译我补充。
好嘞，OK, go ahead.
So yeah, communication is extremely important in the parent-child relationship, leading by example, as you mentioned, and being honest with them. And obviously, the way we speak to very young children is very different than when we speak to teenage children who, already understand much more. So the way we communicate or what we share with them changes over time. But the honesty that we keep in the relationship, that is a constant. So, speaking to them as somebody that you respect, communicating to them with respect. And of course, there are times when we have to correct them. And even that, they learn to respect. So children respect the boundaries we give them. When they understand, of course, in the moment they will rebel. In the moment they might, try to push the boundaries at different stages in their lives, whether they're toddlers or teenagers. There are various stages where in the development of a child, where, as we call it in Sahaja Yoga, the ego develops, or they start seeing things a certain way and, they react to the left side. So there's constantly a sort of exploration in children to try and find out, where they want to go, what the boundaries are, whether they agree with the boundaries or not, all this. And if you are honest and consistent and respectful, and you have that communication with the children, then eventually they understand and you find a common ground.
就是最重要的是我们以身作则然后呢，我们要跟他们交流，然后要诚实要尊重他们。然后小孩子呢，他们从你可能就是跟他们相处的方式，随着他们年龄的增长会不同。就是当他们是比较小的孩子，和他们成为青少年的时候，那你跟他们的这种。就是当他们成为青少年的时候，他们可能有更多的这个自我，那么这时候你的处理方式那可能会有一些不同，就是这也是一个探索的过程，跟孩子的相处的方式 但是作为父母呢，那么我们要诚实，我们要自始至终就是有一个叫什么来着？自始至终是一致的，就是你自己有一个持续性，你不是一会儿这样一会儿那样，就是我也不知道中文怎么说，就是有一个持续性是你本身是一致的，你本身是诚实的然后你对他是尊重的那么小庆后面是什么？
哦，我来补充一点啊，我这里信号不是，可能是我这里的信号不太好，就是听的时候有的时候听不清楚。我刚刚的理解就是孩子他有不同的年龄阶段，我们在跟不同年龄段的孩子，就我们自己的孩子在成长，不同的年龄时期，我们跟他的沟通的方式表达的这种说话的这种方式，可能都不太一样。但是呢，不管是什么样的年龄时期，我们是以一种尊重的方式。这个是我听到的，不可能有的时候也会出现一点问题，就是哪怕在孩子在犯错的时候，如果我们也能够以这种平等的、尊重的这种方式去跟孩子沟通，那孩子在这个过程中，他也会学会怎么去尊重怎么去尊重别人。另外一个呢，就是我们家长在面对孩子的过程中，真诚是最重要的。就像婷丽刚刚说的，诚实。真诚就是始终如一的，我们要真诚，然后带着理解、关心和尊重去跟孩子进行这样的互动。
我刚刚你在说的时候，我又想起来一点，他说了一个 boundary，就是边界。所谓的边界，就是
对
我们给孩子设置的说，比如说你是不可以不尊重父母的，对吧？我们有这样的一个边界，那孩子他是会尊重你给他设定的这个边界的他有时候他也会试着去挑战一下，但是如果说你始终如一，他是会学会去尊重这个边界的。好的。
对，还有我刚刚在听的时候，给我一个很大的启发就是我们练冥想瑜伽的朋友们、妈妈们，我们都知道，就是我们有一个能量中心嘛，然后它是在我们的额头这个位置，就是对应着自我和超我。如果我们就是过于的纵容孩子，那孩子这个自我方面他就会越来越大，就是膨胀，觉得自己很了不起，好像就是眼里目中无人的一样。但是如果我们过于的去压抑孩子，那孩子他可能就是越来越偏向于这个左脉，就是情绪或者是这种超我会比较严重。所以在这个过程中，其实我们去对待孩子也是在平衡这两个方面。这对我来说是很好的启发，今天晚上很大的收获。
Great. So actually, Xiaoqing had her own theory. So let me translate for her. So she said, okay, the main thing is actually agia, right? So we have ego and superego, even when we deal with our children. So if we just kind of spoil them, then let their ego grow too big, or we too much pressure, put too much pressure on them, and then grow their super ego, then either way it will be not a good parenting. Okay, go ahead. Your topic. So we're kind of like sometimes because I have some idea, and when I'm talking, I forgot some other points, and then I ask Xiaoqing to supplement me, to add what she hear. That's all. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So what you were saying is absolutely right. We are as parents, we have our own shortcomings, our own strengths and weaknesses, and those also translate into our parenting styles. But with the help of Sahaja Yoga, because through Sahaja Yoga, we learn about ourselves, we get to know ourselves better, and we're able to find a balance inside of ourselves through the meditation. The Sahaja Yoga meditation helps us to also balance our parenting styles. So Shrimanti explains that the parent who is overindulgent, so-called out of love, that they don't correct the children, they don't want to put any boundaries on the children because they so-called love their children too much. their parenting style is guided from their left side, which is only the emotions. And then parents who are too strict with their children, all the time saying no, all the time correcting them, they are parenting to the right side. And so when we balance ourselves through the meditation, these two aspects can become integrated. The discipline or the correcting side, which is the responsibility of being a parent, and then the emotions of being a parent, which are the love and the feelings. Those two have to be in balance. They have to be integrated for an effective parenting. And of course, we constantly stumble a little bit one to the other. We do a bit of both. We learn to find our middle ground. There is no one way of doing things in the sense that nobody is perfect. But what is definitely true is that as we improve ourselves by being honest with ourselves, respecting ourselves, and finding our balance through meditation, the benefits of that balance reflect also in our relationship with our children, because they influence also the way we parent. Our emotions and our responsibilities become more integrated.
所以就是说，因为我们也不是完美的，因为我们自己有我们的长处，也有我们的缺点那这个也会反映到我们的就是亲子关系当中。那我们可能就是不去纠正我们的孩子，就是过于说我爱我的孩子，就是过于在我们的左脉上，也可能说我们过于的去给我们孩子各种各样的管理，就进入了我们的右脉的方向。但是我们通过沙哈加瑜伽的冥想是可以去平衡这个的，就是平衡这个两个方面。那么在我们这个亲子关系当中，很可能我们是从一个从左脉到右脉，又从右脉到左脉的这样的一个摇摆过程当中，那么只要是我们是对自己是诚实的去面对的就可以去平衡我们情感和我们责任这两个，一个是左脉，一个是右脉的这样的一个作为就是亲子关系当中，就这两个可以有一个整合。那么通过我们沙哈加瑜伽的冥想去平衡我们的亲子关系。好的 ，Go ahead.
So on the side of yuvas, like you said, we really have to try and understand them, right? And understand what they're going through. A lot of the yuvas we can see in today's generation are going through that sort of duality. So like, you have your Sahaja aspect, you come to pujas, you come to center, but then there's also the aspect of you trying to fit in with your friends, with your colleagues, your coworkers. Have you ever faced this duality, and like how would you advise trying, getting rid of this confusion and like being stable in yourself and within a life?
I would ask the same question to you also.
Who's that? 小庆吗？
对呀，我觉得他问的这个问题，我很想问他。其实。
Then both of you will answer a question. Okay. First, let me translate what Ajija says. 所以Ajija 讲呢，就是说我们作为这个沙哈加瑜伽成长出来的孩子，就是我们现在当今的社会，我们面对了这个两重的身份。一方面，作为沙哈加瑜伽士，我们参加普济就是进行冥想；另外一方面，我们要去面对我们生活当中的这样的一个身份我们的同学、朋友，或者是工作当中的同事，那么这样的一层关系。那么我们怎样去让自己在这种两重身份当中保持自己的稳定性，就是这样的一个问题。Okay, so let's ask Niranjana first and Ajija get your answer ready. Go ahead.
Okay, so for me it was definitely very stark, especially during the teenage years and the college years. You have the Sahaj life. And whenever you're immersed in that stage life, things become obvious to you because you see how good you feel when you are immersed in that Sahaj environment. And after spending a few days, meditating properly, possibly attending a puja or any Sahaj event, then you can see the effect on yourself. And then you have the life with, your ordinary life, where you battle the stresses of your day-to-day life, but also the social interactions, which sometimes have nothing to do with Sahaj yoga, very often. So I think I would say in my experience, it gets better with time, because as you grow older and more confident in yourself, you're able to sort of hold your ground better and really put boundaries more firmly with respect to other people and how you want them to treat you or how you want them to interact with you. But it can be very difficult as a teenager to juggle these two aspects. And I think that, again, it's about being honest with oneself and trying our best to stay true to ourselves. And it's fine to have social interactions. It's not just fine, it's completely normal. It's the right thing to do. But what is also important is to understand that how far, how much respect you want from the other people around you. So something, for example, as simple as, if you decide, for example, that you don't want to drink alcohol, and you have social outings with friends and everybody's drinking and they're like, why don't you do it, etc., etc., etc. So it's very normal to feel under pressure from your peers to drink alcohol, for example. And if you're lucky, you find a few friends who respect you for who you are. And if you can firstly respect yourself for your choices and be secure in yourself that, this is who I am, then you also encourage that respect from others. And it gives you the strength also to then stand firm in your convictions. And so my advice would be try and surround yourself with people who respect you for who you are. And if you don't have such people in your immediate, in your school or in your university, you might find such people amongst those who are also practicing Sahaj yoga in your environment. Or you might have such relationships with people who don't necessarily live close by, but who you can keep in touch with on a regular basis. So the bottom line is we choose who we let into our lives, and we choose who we interact with. And it can sometimes be hard because we feel like we don't find anyone we get along with, we don't find anyone who really understands us, who really respects us. And in such cases, try, whether it's in your immediate environment or perhaps, in a larger environment where you attend seminars of like-minded people who are also practicing Sahaj yoga, try to find friends your own age who are practicing and experiencing the same challenges as you. And surround yourself by that sort of comforting or supportive network.
Okay, hope I can translate. Okay, so no problem. 就是我们让我先想想问题是什么，是怎样平衡，就是我们两种身份，对吧？就是他说呢，就是我们当他是去参加普济，然后呢去冥想，很好的冥想，这样几天之后，那么他有一个非常好的一个状态，然后呢他又去会有这样的，就是我们正常的社会社交这样的一层关系。那么当他还是就是青少年的时候，就是他会比较这种双重的身份，他会比较 难以平衡一点。但是随着他说，这主要呢是随着一个时间的一个增长，慢慢的你会越来越看清自己。就是最重要的还是你对自己要成熟，就是要诚实的面对自己。那么知道呢，撒哈加瑜伽是你想要走的这条路。那么在你接触的这些朋友当中，如果你很幸运的话呢，你遇到的这些朋友是尊重你的选择的。比如说你去一些社交场合呢，大家都说都要喝酒，对吧？那你这是很正常的，你会感觉到来自你的同学或者是同辈人这样的一个压力，这是很正常的。但是你要就是怎么说呢？要坚持自己的自己的原则这个方面呢，就是首先你要尊重你自己，然后呢你也要就是有这样的一个力量呢，就是要求别人给予你这样的一个尊重。那这也是一个很好的一个成长的一个点，因为这会让你更加的认清自己，就是你自己想要得到尊重也就是说你不要去就是去附和别人，对吧？那么我想这种内在的力量也是可以通过撒哈加瑜伽的冥想去获得的。就是这种自信随着年龄的成长会越来越多，你会知道你应该是怎样去面对这个社会上形形色色的人，怎样去为自己设定下这样的一个叫做边界吧。如果说你身边没有这样会尊重你的人，那你可以把你的社交圈放大一点。比如说你参加一些交流会，那么遇到了这样的一些同辈的人，那么你可以去跟他们去交流。意思就是说，你知道你自己想要什么，那么你会交流的这样的人，应该是会给予你想要的生活，以一种尊重的态度的。那些不尊重你的人，那你也不需要去附和他们。我觉得就是就是他们之前讲的，就是你自己对自己的尊重和你自己有一个很清晰的这样的一个认知吧，或者说就是对自己要诚实。OK， 小庆，你有要加的吗？OK, go ahead.
Okay, I guess I can talk
Yeah.
a little bit about my answer here because very similar to yours, I am also waiting for the day we will have a Sahaj college. We've had a Sahaj school, it's time for a Sahaj college, hopefully someday, where you can really, mingle more freely and, open your hearts out completely to your friends, which can be a little difficult with your normal social circle. And like you said, I believe it's important to be true to yourself and have your boundaries. So like initially, you want to seem cool. Everyone wants to do things on weekends. They'll be like, Adrija, let's do this on Saturday. I'm like, oh, but I have to go to center. I don't know what to say. Oh, I'm going to see family. Okay, let's do Sunday. Oh, I have a puja that day. What do I say now? I would try to hide the fact that, oh, I am part of this meditation group and we do really cool things, but you won't understand that. So I used to mask it by saying maybe family and this and that. And they'd be like, why is Adrija always so busy? And she's never available on weekends or things like that. So eventually, I believe that embracing your identity and who you are really helps with that honesty. Your friends, they know that this is an aspect of your life and they can choose to respect it and they stay in your lives or not. And in that case, it's okay. You can always find another circle of friends, or you have yuvas in Sahaj. And they're a lot of fun to hang out with. Go to yuva seminars, and you really feel that joy in your hearts when you go to these seminars, I believe. And at the end of the day, to me, it's a question of, did I take this life to please people around me or to please Srimataji? So if I do something, is that going to please my friend, which is great, but would it please Srimataji? And if not, the clear answer is, okay, I cannot do that. So that's the ideal I live by. And I'm like, if you can stay in my life and we respect each other on this aspect, then that's great. If not, no worries. There's a lot of people in this world and you can always find someone, to work with, really.
I think it's hard
No.
to live by. Oh, sorry. Yes, of course.
I know you're having a very good conversation here. 阿追家讲的就是，他非常的期待，那么有撒哈加瑜伽的大学，那么这会是一个非常美好的事情，就是周围的同学朋友都可以以完全开放的，就是开放的心去对待大家。那现在他面对的就是，他会去撒哈加的活动，对吧？比如说我们撒哈加活动多数都是在周六和周日。那么在学校里面呢，他们一般周六周日都是跟朋友聚会啊这些，然后他们会说阿追家那周六。今天周六我们去聚一下吧，阿追家，心里面想的是我今天我们中心有活动，那我也你要跟他们说我们有撒哈加瑜伽活动，然后非常重要，他们也不会理解，那他就说我们今天我家里面有一些事情，然后阿追家呢星期天呢，星期天有普济，对吧？那阿追家又不能去了，所以呢，最开始的时候就是说一些借口，后来慢慢的阿追家就是去诚实的告诉他们有这个撒哈加瑜伽，然后有普济这些，如果说他们可以接受呢，我们就是朋友；如果不能接受呢，我们就去另外找一些朋友。那么最重要的是就是像刚才尼瓦加纳赛的我们说的，我们要对自己要诚实。就是所以阿追加也是一个就是他很清楚撒哈加瑜伽在他生命当中是最重要的成分。那么他说呢，就是当他有一个很清晰的这样的一个理念，就是他是要去取悦他的朋友吗？还是要去取悦许玛塔吉？那如果说我就是出去我做这样的事情会取悦我的朋友，但是这个如果说不会取悦许玛塔吉的话，那我就不会去做，因为对他来讲取悦许玛塔吉是最重要的事情。小庆有加的吗
？Can I just no，你翻译的非常好，但是我是想问阿居家一件事情一个点。Hi 阿居家，just now I heard you said about this point, and I have one point want to ask you. So when did you realize, like for you, this Shrimata is most important than your friends? And that time, it's like happened like that, or your parents guide you?
OK 小庆你自己翻译吧。I let 小庆to translate to Chinese herself 。
我刚刚问的一点呢，就是对我们练习冥想瑜伽的朋友来说，慢慢的我们都会意识得到，就是去听从灵性导师须里马特的教诲是非常重要的事情。我们也希望我们的言行能够是须玛他吉喜欢的那种样子，就是用那种的方式去生活。然后刚刚的这位朋友阿居加，他就说，在他交友的时候，或者是一些言行。他就会问自己，他所做的是为了去取悦他的朋友，还是去取悦灵性导师须里马他吉？如果他做的事情取悦了朋友，但是呢，不是须马他想要我们做的一些行为，他可能就会放弃。我问的问题就是，他是在什么时候意识得了这一点？这个意识是自然的发生在他的身上，还是说在他成长的过程中，他的父母给了他一些的引导和帮助 ？OK, please, 阿居家。
Yeah, so I guess like Niranjana said also, it's not like a one moment thing that made me realize, oh yeah, this is it, or oh, Shrimataji is who she is, because like she said, like because I've also been practicing Sahaj since I was a kid. So at one point you question, am I doing it because my parents are telling me to do it, or is it because I really love Shrimataji from my heart, and who is Shrimataji to me? So I think the start of this change, where obviously when I was young, I would want to hang out with friends. I always knew Sahaj was important. I'd go to center, but that connection with Shrimataji, maybe for me, the defining moment when it started growing really was when I realized that my friends are there with me, during the day, maybe during good times, we share some good moments and memories together. But when I'm in like trouble or sorrow, the only person that's there with me is Shrimataji. So I will not go to my, like, as speaking for me at least, like I don't go to my friends with my sorrows, I go to Shrimataji, and then I see something work out. And that really clicked, and I was like, okay, this is happening constantly. Like you see these little miracles in your life. I'm like, okay, this is not what is happening with my friends. It's through Shrimati. So like my family went through a lot of misfortunes. My dad was sick and he was in the hospital for the longest time. And my friends, his friends, they came, they visited, they did as much as they could. They were great people. But it was really the love of the yogis that really instigated my love for Shrimati, because you see mother's love through yogis, and they did more than your family would do for you. They would stay at our house at night. They literally, because my mom would be in the hospital, they would like feed me and my sister. They would do everything for us. And I could really feel Shrimati's love pouring out through these yogis around me. And it was through these moments I realized that this divine love, the love that you can see through yogis, the love that you see of Shrimati pouring in yogis is so much deeper and more, in a sense, meaningful than your ordinary coworkers or friends. And they obviously love you in a different way. They also will try to do as much as they can, but the amount yogis will do for you, or the lengths that the yogis or your yuva friends will go for you, is often a lot further than your general friends will. And so through these like experiences, I was like, yes, I know who I have in my heart, and that's Shrimati. So yeah.
谢谢阿
Wow, I
吉。
just hear you, like I couldn't control the tears actually. The moment when you speak, I also can feel much love is through you come to us. Thank you.
Yeah， 我来翻译一下阿居家讲的，就是说，阿居家说跟宁儿讲的一样的，它也不是一个点就发生，它也是一个时间段，就是一种realization， 就是一种意识的觉醒吧。那么小的时候呢，他也有过这样的困惑，那么也不知道他做萨哈加瑜伽是因为他的父母还是他自己内心想要的。那在他的人生当中，那么他有经历过许多这样的事情了。其中一个就是他讲到的点，就是比如说他小时候也有朋友，对吧？那么大家可能在一起有非常愉快的时间，但是当生活当中有出现了不愉快的时候，就是伤心的这些时候的时候呢，那么他的朋友是给不了太多帮助的。那这种时候，他都是去坐到许玛塔吉面前，去跟许玛塔吉祈祷。那么他发现呢，当他祈祷之后呢，就是有些生活当中有一些奇迹出现，就是更加坚定了他对许玛塔吉和萨哈加瑜伽的这样的一个信念。那当他父亲呢，就是有过生病了，就会有了这样一个很长一段时间的生病这样的一个经历。那当时他母亲呢，就必须要去医院去陪他的爸爸。那他们在家就是他跟他的妹妹2个孩子。那么那个时候就是他生活中的朋友，比如说你的同事啊朋友，就他们能够给予的这样的关心是非常有限的。但是那些瑜伽士可以给予的就是超越了你生活当中这些普通的这样的一个世俗的关系能够给予你的。然后那些瑜伽师会去到他们家中，然后给他和他的妹妹去喂饭，这些就是他真正是感觉了许玛太极的爱和所有这些瑜伽士身上的这些爱，所以就让他坚定了在萨哈加瑜伽里面。So actually, I have to say, Ajuja's parents are super good Sahaja yogis, and I heard from her mom actually. So when they're young, her dad is very dedicated to Shrimataji. So when they were young, her mom says, "Look, actually, Ajuja always studied very good, but not her sister. So her sister name is Ahana. So her mom says, look, Ahana's math is so bad. Her dad said, did she meditate today? so all he worry about is, did they meditate? So for him, and as long as they meditate, they know Sri Mataji, that's all. Everything else is not so important. So the family influence also very important. That's how I feel. 我来解释一下，我来翻译一下这段哈，就是因为我跟 就阿居家在我们集体嘛，所以说我是非常熟悉的。然后他的父母是非常非常棒的瑜伽师，然后他的父亲呢，就是对母亲是绝对完全的，就是那种我中文叫什么，就完全的奉献吧，那种完全的，我经常是英文，然后中文不太熟，就是完完全全的心对待母亲，所以他小时候，比如说对他而言，就是最重要的事情就是撒哈加瑜伽，这也是他教育孩子的方式。比如说阿居家的妹妹，她的学习不是很好，那小时候妈妈会说，就是阿哈娜。数学成绩这次考得非常不好，然后他爸爸呢就说，他今天有没有冥想啊？就是根本完全不关心他们的学习成绩啊这些，对他而言最重要就是孩子有没有冥想，就是有没有把撒哈加瑜伽放到第一位，有没有把须玛塔吉放到第一位。Okay, so go ahead.
Again, I have a question. Sorry. Again, I have a question. So when you and like face exam not good didn't get good marks, and your father only care about did you or your sister meditate or not. So when your father said this, because when we were small, we can't understand how like what is Sahaja Yoga, how meditation is important for us. So that time you have like some reaction inside why father only care about meditation, not or not. So you
Yes.
had this kind of feeling.
Oh, Auntie,
You translate 小庆。
我刚刚就问嘛，就是说我们在就是小孩子年龄比较小的时候，他不懂得撒哈加瑜伽意味着什么，他也不能够明白冥想对我们的意义和重要性。所以当就是如果把我们看成是一个小孩子，我们成绩不好的时候，没有考到好的分数，然后父亲就只关心我们有没有冥想，他不关心我们的学习成绩。那如果我们是小孩子，当时听到这样的话，心里面会不会有一些就是叫什么不开心啊，或者质疑啊？为什么不关心我们的成绩，而是只关心我们的分有没有冥想？我就问他那个时候他是不是也会有这样的心理
Yes.
Okay, please.
So that definitely happened. When I was young, I didn't really understand. Okay, I'm meditating, great. But his attention is always on Sahaj and all of that, right? Sometimes I'd feel like, okay, why is he not being like a normal dad or something like that, which I guess Niranjana, you might have also faced in some points of your life. So like he'd not really talk about marks or say I'm really upset about something and I'm crying. He'll stand for a bit, he'll pat me on the back, and then he'll be like, okay, now go clear your left channel because you're getting too emotional. And then I'd just be like, I'd get so mad. I'm like, Dad, this is I'm like having a whole cry session over here. I need you to understand. But obviously, as I grew up, I realized that that was the way he showed his love, right? Because ultimately, when I cleared myself out, I felt better right after, and I'd be like, okay, maybe that wasn't so important. The issue wasn't that important. But it took that time of like Niranjana said, like coming to that common ground where I was able to understand why my father did the things he did. And in the moment I did have those reactions and I was like, he doesn't get me or those little tantrums that the children will throw and I'm like, oh, he doesn't love me. But now that I look back on these things, I'm like, yeah, he did it out of his love. And that was the way he showed his love, was to make sure that we really stuck to Sahaj because he knew that that's the way, right? Like he just wanted us to always stick to the truth, and because that he knew that was the way that we would always be in welfare, be in mother's protection. And yeah, so yeah, I did react back then, but now I understand. So
所以阿姐家讲呢是
Nice.
阿姐讲说呢，确实他小的时候是有一些反应的，比如说觉得我爸爸为什么不能跟其他的父亲一样，就是正常的父亲，就是当我就是成绩啊这些他也不关心，然后我在外面有了伤心的事情跟他哭诉的时候，他就拍拍我，然后说好，现在你过于情绪化了，去清理一下你的左脉。我就想爸爸你就不能够理解一下我吗？就是 就是会觉得父亲不爱我呀这些，但是慢慢的就是我去做了清理之后，自己感觉轻松一些，然后慢慢的就随着年龄的增长，慢慢了解了这就是他给我的这个爱因为他知道这是正确的路，所以他就想要确保我们是在母亲的爱下成长的，获得一切来自母亲的祝福。Okay.
Okay, so the same question I want to ask Niranjana. This kind of moments, how your father guide you?
For us growing up, it was similar to Ajija in the sense that it was very clear from the beginning that for both my father and my mother, Sahaja Yoga was, the most important thing because they knew that that was the source of all the solutions. That was the source of us finding our happiness, our peace. And they also used to connect everything to Sahaja Yoga. Our moods, our emotions, our behaviors, our experiences, everything was looked at through the eyes of what does it mean from the Sahaj point of view, from the spiritual side of things. And as we know, of course, our subtle system, our spiritual body is at the core of who we are. So obviously anything that we're experiencing or any behavior or emotions we're manifesting or expressing has a root in our spiritual. So they would go straight to that and they would address that directly. And so growing up in that way, it led us to also understand and think that way too. And I remember even something completely unconnected, like even politics or the news. My father would speak about it also in terms of what it meant on the spiritual side, or look at it, how it's going to impact the vibrations, or the country from a spiritual side point of view. So, in that way, it's no longer a duality, like two worlds. There's the Sahaj and then there's the other. It becomes integrated because everything relates in some way. Because if spirituality is at the core, if this energy is all encompassing, all penetrating, and all pervading, then everything is interrelated, is interconnected. And how what the meaning of things are, the meaning of events, how it impacts us, how we in our lives, through our experiences, how that affects our vibrations, and how we overcome the challenges in our life. All of that relates to our subtle system. And so the training in that way is very similar, Adrija had a very similar experience to what we had growing up, in the sense that you learn to also then stand on your own feet in your spiritual understanding of things, that you learn to understand yourself through your subtle system, and you start to understand your reactions, introspect, because your parents are also looking at your own development, your own upbringing through that.
他说女安家来说，他也是一样的，就是他的父亲和母亲都是从小就是做任何事情都是以撒哈加瑜伽是最重要的，是第一的这样的方式去帮助或者是教育他们的那么就是生活中各种各样的事情，然后他的父亲母亲都会把他从撒哈加瑜伽的角度去看待它甚至是像一些没有关系的，比如说一些政治或者是一些新闻这些东西，然后他的父亲也会描述他从撒哈加瑜伽的角度，从这个能量的变化，然后这个国家的这个灵性方面的成长成长的变化，然后这些方面去讨论。那么当你意识到所有的这些你的撒哈加瑜伽里面的生活和你就是撒哈加之外这个生活，那么它其实都是有一个内在的联系，那么就不再有一个 双重的这个身份在里面，因为他们都是完全合一的然后和阿居家是一样的，就是也有一个这个过程，就是从父母亲的让我们去做撒哈加瑜伽，到你真正是从自己出发，站在自己做的这个决定，站在自己的脚上说撒哈加瑜伽就是我要走的这个路这是就是一个过程。OK， 小庆我有漏掉的吗？可以加一下。
没有，翻译的很好。
谢谢。Very nice, very nice. Anything else? Ajija, Niranjana? You can ask each other.
I
That's
did
very nice.
asking, so I'm out of question. I'm in thoughtless awareness now.
No, it's very nice to hear about your upbringing and your experience or your journey growing up in Sahaja Yoga.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
what's so interesting is to, of course, we've never met, we don't know each other, but to hear about the similarities in, our journeys that, you might start your life in a Sahaj family, but eventually you have to own it for yourself, and then how that happens, and how also the parents died, so it's interesting to hear and see those similarities.
Definitely.
你看珍娜说她是非常高兴，就是也听到阿居甲的故事，然后看到这个与他自己相似的这个生活的经历，最终阿居甲也会建立自己的家庭，然后有这样自己的探索，就是非常非常非常的开心能够听到与自己相似的人讲相似的问题、相似的回答吧。Okay, thank you all, both of you so much.
Great talking to everyone.
Yes, it was lovely talking to everyone.
小庆，你有什么小庆anything else
feeling-
you would like to add?
Yes, I feeling like if we continue, we can just going on, right? Go on. Continue the topic. So maybe next time we can again, we share the chatting together. Not only about parenthood, also about our own self, like how we grow in Sahaja Yoga, how the way we understand Sahaja Yoga.
Yes, definitely. I feel both of them have will have good insight for that. And yes, we can chat something else and not about parenting and the yoga things, parenting and the children things, but something else give us some inspiration.
Next time I'll understand all of the Chinese that you say, Auntie.
That'll be great.
Not making any progress of the kind. I don't think.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very nice talking. I feel everybody are very relaxed. So I really learned a lot. I think Xiaoqing is very happy too. Sounds like.
Yes, actually, since a long time, I had a desire to interview. You can say interview or just ask some viewers who is growth in Sahaja Yoga. I want to understand how they are feeling and if parents do something, how they are feeling inside. Because now I have to hand over my 2 daughters. Sometimes I also have the fear, too strict or too just relax. So sometimes I don't know how to balance. And they are too small. They don't know how to express the feeling properly to me. So I want to teenagers or 20 years old, this Yuva Shaktis, how they are feeling. Now I have the chance. Shri Mataji arrange all these things.
So if you're according to what they say, if your child doesn't understand what you did, so it's okay. They might not understand at this time because they're too little, right? Okay, so
maybe next time, Niranjana, you can share something about your 2 daughters, each stage, how they feel also in their school or not their first school friends, how they go through the difference once they're in Sahaja Yoga collective and when they're in school with their own friends.
Yeah. Next time or this time?
Yeah, next time. I think today is maybe it's already like 1.5 over.
Yeah. All right. Sure.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. And thank you for both. That's really very nice. 谢谢马大鸡。
谢谢马大姐。
Good evening.